Hi, hi, hi. Vetrano Maria, you are the first person to join Wham Now. Wham Now. Thank you so much. The guy, What Love Pizzas, hello, how are you? Lisa Shields, 34, Crunchy Mama, and two others have joined. Story Media, hi. Carson Foster, thank you so much for joining. LA 4488. Good afternoon, Maria. Good afternoon to you too. Victoria 831. Samantha Hirsch, thank you guys so much for joining us here at the Women's Alzheimer's Movement. Every week on Thursdays, we are doing Wham Now. These are live conversations about women's health, about brain health, about Alzheimer's prevention, about women and Alzheimer's. Every week, we're going to bring you up-to-date information. We're going to introduce you to people who are in the fight against Alzheimer's, who are out there working, trying to bring you the latest information about prevention, about women's health, about research. We try to tell you what we know as soon as we know it, and that's the purpose of Wham Now, is to bring you up to date, to keep you up to date, and to introduce to you the work of the Women's Alzheimer's Movement. It's really important work. We fund research into women's brains because we have this huge research knowledge gap. Women haven't been studied enough, so therefore when we go to find out about women's diseases and how they impact women, we know very little because we just haven't studied women at the level that we've studied men. So the Women's Alzheimer's Movement funds research, funds gender-based research. We educate women and their families about prevention. We educate you about brain health, and we try to help you as you navigate this disease of Alzheimer's. And something I learned when my dad was diagnosed with Alzheimer's is once one person in the family has Alzheimer's, the whole family has Alzheimer's to a degree. The whole family is involved in the fight, in the struggle, in the experience. And for everybody, it's very different. Everybody has a very individual experience with it. And the Women's Alzheimer's Movement is there to help you navigate that journey, that experience. We were born out of reporting the fact that Alzheimer's disproportionately impacted women. That has been our mission, and we will be out of business as soon as Alzheimer's is wiped out. I put on my Wipe Out Alzheimer's. Oh my God, somebody just gave a $5 donation to the Women's Alzheimer's Movement. Instagram has this new ability here to have a ongoing donation. So today we're going to have an ongoing fundraiser that we're going to split with our friends at HFC, which used to be Hilarity for Charity, now known as HFC. Lauren Miller and her husband Seth Rogen are going to join us today and talk about their work. We're allies in this field. I'm a big fan of what they're doing. I love both of them. I love them as a couple. I love them individually. I love what their organization does. Oh, that says they're here and they're requesting. And they have a great new initiative that they are mounting in honor of this time in our history and what they think is necessary. Oh, there
Hello.
they are.
Oh,
Hi.
Hi, you guys.
we have to sit so close together.
I know,
This is
it's
funny.
okay. It's a good thing we get along.
You are married.
Good thing
so
we
it's okay.
showered.
Hi.
Hi. So nice to see you.
How's it going?
How are we? How are we?
We're good.
Fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're fine. I don't
We
know.
have no kids.
Yeah.
It's very easy for us. Yeah.
That's true. You're not
We have no
homeschooling.
kid-
You're sheltering.
Exactly. We are sheltering. Sheltering is it's very conducive to our lifestyles.
Yes, we shelter a lot naturally anyway.
Exactly.
So now is just, we're just worried about everyone else out there.
Exactly. Don't worry about us.
That's so. But even though you're sheltering and you're kind of frozen sheltering, so I'm
Oh,
no.
wondering if are you frozen?
Are we back?
Maybe I'll like get you off and you. Oh wait, there you are. You're back.
Okay.
You're
Okay.
Good. So even though you're sheltering, let's be clear, you're still working really around the clock with HFC to try to meet the demands of this moment. What are you finding that your people that you serve, Lauren, want from your organization right now?
Well, it's interesting because caregivers are isolated normally, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And, you know, so, you know, I think that it's interesting that so many people are experiencing that now, you know, and from what we hear, you know, our grant program where we provide care to people is still very much up and running. And we are still providing care for people, but it's more complicated, of course. There's more stress because it involves more cleaning. Every time, you know, if a caregiver does come into the home, that requires a lot of trust, of course, and then constant hand washing. If your loved one has dementia, which in our case, the people that we provide grants for do, you have to re-explain what's happening out there over and over again. Why do they have to keep these things up? And then just as far as getting any type of rest and relaxation, so much of that has gone out the window. People are now working from home. They're caring sometimes for their children and their parents at the same time, while working a job at home. You know, it's a really, you know, it's a complicated situation in good times, and, you know, has now been elevated to, you know, another level for sure.
Yeah.
We've been talking a lot. The whole country has been talking about the healthcare workers, right? And their PPE and the work that they've been doing. We haven't heard that much about home health workers, who are those who go to people's houses every day. And very often they're caring for somebody with Alzheimer's. Are those people, in your experience, are they still showing up? Are they talking about having a much more difficult time showing up?
I think it's a mix. You know, we've had some people say, you know what, I'd rather put my grant on hold right now and not have someone else come into my home. But in some situations, like, the people just don't have that option. They need someone to come in. And so it requires, like I said, trust and knowing someone, which, you know, fortunately for us, we have a good partnership. So everyone, you know, that is a caregiver within our program can be trusted. But it's about cleanliness and wearing masks and constantly, you know, the things that everyone is doing now, of course, but it's heightened as we.
So if somebody needs help, if they need a caregiver, Lauren and Seth, how do they apply for one now? Let's just say they need it. They find themselves, I didn't need a caregiver, a home health care worker before, but I need one now. I just find out that HFC will help me. What do they do?
I don't know where he's going. He's going to make a phone call right now.
Are you kidding?
No. I don't know where he went.
It doesn't matter.
Oh, he's getting a plug. I
was asking about, can they apply for a grant now?
No. Oh, I see. My phone is dying. He's getting a plug for my phone. I didn't realize that. Okay. Anyway, sorry. Yes, they can absolutely apply for a grant now. We look at applications monthly. We have an amazing board of people who read the applications every month. I sat on that board for the past number of years. And yes, we read them every month. And so I think, I'm not sure exactly the time. If you email us, we can, you know, answer questions about the process. But if you apply now within, I don't want to say if you are accepted, it'll start in the next month, 2 months, 3 months, something like that.
Yeah. So we've heard from, like, the governor of California, and other governors have talked a lot about these so-called vulnerable population, people who are older, who are at home, how they're socially isolated. You guys are mounting up a program to deal with that you're going to announce pretty soon. What are you kind of cooking up?
To touch.
No, you go.
So basically, you know, we're cooking up something that is so simple, which is telling people to make a phone call.
Yes.
You know, I think we look at our cell phones these days, and we go on Instagram and we go on Twitter and we send emails and we send text messages and all these other things, TikTok. I don't even know what that is. And, like, you know, but we forget that the basis of these things that we hold in our hands all day is communication with our loved ones. And the most simple thing you can do for a caregiver who is caring for someone else, but really for anyone in your life, is to pick up the phone and let them hear your voice and ask them, how are you doing?
Yeah. I called my mom the other day, and I call so rarely that she really thought something was wrong when I called, which was, I think, a startling realization that I should probably be calling my mom more. But yeah, I think it really goes to show that just phoning your loved ones, people that are alone, you know, just call. It's so easy, and it makes them feel better, and emotional support does a lot for people's physical well-being as well. So yeah.
Yeah.
I think Seth has a good point, because my kids tell me nobody calls anymore, mommy.
Mhm.
Nobody leaves a voicemail. I'm the only one leaving a voicemail, but it makes a big difference to me when I hear a voice as opposed
Same.
to text. How are you going to get people to encourage them to actually pick up the phone and call someone? What if someone says, I want to call, but I don't have an older person to call?
Call your single friends.
Yeah.
You
I think that this is something that, we're in a moment now where everyone, as we touched on earlier, where everyone is experiencing loneliness and isolation,
Yeah.
and, what that is like. So we're in a moment where we want to encourage everyone to pick up the phone. There will be a day, I know, when this ends.
Yeah.
And then it will just continue to be a reminder to call caregivers. I think what's so interesting is just, people getting the window into this time, and just knowing that like caregivers, are just so desperate for any type of connection, because that's so important when you're a caregiver.
Are you going to make it easy for people to go on to HFC, for example, and then give them numbers of caregivers that they can
You're
call,
breaking
or
up.
connect them to caregivers?
Sorry, you're breaking up. I'm missing
Did
it
you hear
again.
me?
One more time, please.
Are we going to make it easy
Oh,
for people to call and connect to a caregiver?
Yeah.
We are putting together. Yes, I don't want to say too many things before we have all our ducks in a row. But yes, we're putting together. We have some interesting partnerships, so that we can really make it easy for people to reach out when it's easy for them. That's another interesting part of it. Is we have a lot of online support for people right now, and we've increased that. So we normally have online support groups for people, but now we've increased how many we have. We made some drop-in sessions, of course, doing seminars like you guys have been doing, making videos, things that people can watch when they have the time, because it's caregivers who have their they're being pulled in different directions, so they need to be able to access care when it is convenient for them.
Yeah, I think it's always a struggle for all of us who work in this space, right? We've talked about this a lot, is how do we bring attention to a disease with no survivors, to a disease that is kind of isolated in itself, that people don't see, to home health care workers that people don't see unless they're actually in it 24/7. Are you hopeful that we're further along in bringing attention to this disease, bringing attention to the home health care workers who work in this space, bringing attention to organizations like ours? Are you feeling optimistic?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. definitely for sure. I mean, I think, something that we always say, it's hard because we're so in it, but I think in the time that we've been in it, awareness has grown. And I think, again, like, it's just about talking about things. And so, I think part of it, people have been home, they've focused a bit more on their health. I know so many people who are doing online workout classes, and learning things that way. And I'm hoping that in turn, again, once this sort of moment of panic right now, I would say that we're in, subsides a bit, that can also meld into, wow, I took that time to focus on my health. Maybe I should continue doing that in my daily life. Maybe I should work from home a bit more. Maybe I should manage my stress a bit more.
Yeah. And it feels like a lot of people have become caretakers probably in the last few months in ways that they were not in the past. So I think probably sympathy for people in that position will probably go up. And I think in general, I feel like since we've started, the conversation about brain health in general and just health in general has kind of moved in a very encouraging direction. I think when we first started, it just felt like nobody was talking about this at all. And the idea of brain health was, years away from being a sentence that we would even ourselves be saying. So the fact that it's kind of become, a prevalent part of, our conversation and things people are talking about is very encouraging in general,
Yeah.
Something that we've, both of us, as I said before, you guys came on here, we work in this space, and so many people in other nonprofits that I've been speaking to say, God, I'm really worried that there will be no donations to all of these nonprofits that work all the time, that all the attention will go to, getting PPE or Feeding America or people who are lined up for food banks, because that's such an immediate thing. And I recognize that. But I also like to say that there's so many nonprofits, HFC, the Women's Alzheimer's Movement, so many other organizations that are out there that need to also continue to do their work. Do you worry about kind of the state of your nonprofit? I have to say I'm concerned about the state of ours as we head into this kind of post-pandemic state, how we're all going to be able to survive. Do you worry about that at all?
I think like for the time being, we understand that people probably are reshifting their priorities as the global attention is, kind of laser focused on one problem that is,
Yeah.
it seems like a pretty pressing one at the moment as we're in month 2 of not leaving our house. But I do think normalcy, some degree of it will return, and people will ultimately, refocus on the things that were important to them before this, or things that become important to them after this, and again, I think things like brain health, taking care of caretakers, making sure that people who are caretakers have the right support. I think those things, again, while right now it would be good if doctors had medical equipment, I understand why that should be a priority. But
Yeah.
I think, in the coming months, hopefully when things sort of level out a little bit and hopefully we get some semblance of how life was before this, I think that, it will normalize again, and hopefully this will continue to pick up the momentum it seemed to be picking up, before this.
I think it's so important to mention that, because even when this period, the stay-at-home orders are lifted, the caregivers' jobs will continue. And you offer respite grants to so many people who are experiencing this before COVID and will continue post-COVID. We have new people being diagnosed every single day, and we need caregivers. That's something Lauren is on the governor's task force, and that's something we're talking about all the time, is how do we get young people in particular to get into this line of work and see it as a profession. And as people come into the job market now thinking like, oh my God, there are no jobs. There are so many jobs in this space.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, no, it's something that I don't have the answers to yet. Like you said, it's part of the discussion of how do we change this conversation. But I can say, the relationship that we had with the women who cared for my mom was so extraordinary, and they were so special. And I think that we're entering a time where there will be a need for more caregivers. And I know there are so many special people out there, and I hope that they are able to find that profession, because, we need good caregivers out there. It's so important. And it's such a meaningful relationship you can have in someone's life. So I'm anxious to continue the conversation that we've had on that front. Certainly, I think there's, a lot of room to grow. I will add, I actually want to read a note that we got that sort of relates to this from someone who recently received a respite grant from us. So I think it ties into this just to show the important relationship they have. So this is the note. It's, the HFC Caregiver Respite Grant came at the perfect time. I was able to get all my shopping needs done for my mom and myself during the coronavirus first phase. Because of the shortage in food stores, I had to go every day that I had the caregiver scheduled just to get what I could. I thank HFC from the bottom of my heart. It's just like simple things that we all take for granted, that, a caregiver does for someone. And it's just so simple and just so important.
And I think it's important to remember many people can't afford caregivers, and that's why HFC is doing such important work, because they're giving out respite grants for people to get help. And I know, Seth, you told me years ago, or I can't remember exactly, but I remember you saying to me, like, more people come up to me and thank me for the respite grants or for giving them a break and getting them a caregiver than almost about my movies.
In general, I think, I have been fortunate enough to meet a few people who have gotten our grants, and I think that, it mostly, I think people are happy just to see other people around their age out there talking about Alzheimer's in any way, shape, or form. I think that they feel so alone and so isolated, that just to see other people out there, talking about it is very, therapeutic, I think, in a lot of ways. And a lot of people mentioned that to us, and it's it's lovely and it's so simple to do, and so it's nice that it has some effect.
That's so great. So Lauren and Seth, continue the great work of HFC. We'll circle back when you get this new program, which sounds exciting, which is something that we can all get involved in, and that's super simple. And I think it also breaks down the barriers that we have between those of us who don't have a caregiver in our home, don't have someone with Alzheimer's in our home, and someone who does. So I think that you're constantly trying to break down the walls that separate us.
Yes. Sorry, our dog is just barking like crazy.
That's okay. There's dogs here too. I've shut the door.
Yeah. We have too much of an open floor plan. It's really backfiring during this time.
Well, we're so glad to be supporters of everything that you do. We're so glad to be in this fight with you and being kind of a partner with you. And oh my God, look at that.
There she is.
Is that a King Charles? No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a big thing. I know, how dogs are very therapeutic for people, right? Dogs, they're showing
She's
a
very
lot
therapeutic.
of kind of, even if very therapeutic. So if you have
we actually got Zelda upon the recommendation of my therapist many years ago when I was feeling very sad and depressed about my mom. Yeah. And she said, why don't you get a dog? And so we did. And we got Zelda.
And it's been great.
Oh, that's so great. Well, thank you both so much for joining us. Keep up the good work with HFC.
Oh, wait.
Oh.
Okay, our reception is bad. Hold on, there we go.
I think we just caught up.
There we go. Sorry.
Your reception's bad. Okay. That's okay. That's okay.
Okay, I think we're back. We're back.
But
yes, now we can.
What were you saying, Lauren, about the therapist told you about with your dad? Can you hear me? No, I think there was.
Maybe say that one more time.
I was saying that you were finishing up by saying something that the therapist told your dad, or.
Oh no! So, and then also, we got Zelda for me upon the recommendation of my therapist for me, and then we also early on in my mom's diagnosis got my parents a dog that, of course, was there for my dad in the later times, but also early on in my mom's diagnosis was really helpful, and she could take her for walks, and was something to help keep her active, which was really kind of special.
Yep.
So if somebody has a parent newly diagnosed, that's something that they could talk to their doctor about or see that might be beneficial to a loved one.
I mean, in our situation, that's what worked. I can't say that's right for everyone, but
some people, it might be the last thing they need.
Yeah, it might be the last thing.
More to take care of, but
But in that
for
situation,
us it was good.
I think but it's for many people, it's a way to calm anxiety. It's a way to have companionship, and it is something that's helpful. But as we both know, once you've seen one case of Alzheimer's, you've seen one case, which is why it's so important to get a caregiver and to have a lifeline, to be able to call someone and ask questions and to be in a support group, which is really what you're also asking for.
Yes, for sure. If anyone watching needs a support group, you can go to our website, wearehfc.org, and there's lots of good information on there through our programs, and we have lots of caregiver, like we said, support groups online, and putting people together, and making sure people get the help they need.
Bravo. So reach out for a support group. Stay tuned to hear about the new program they're going to introduce. Think about the dog, and
consider a dog.
Remember that HFC, we're trying this new fundraiser thing here we're doing today, where HFC and the Women's Alzheimer's Movement have kind of joined together to do this new feature on Instagram, where you have a fundraising feature, and we've gotten 7 or 8 donations. So that's great.
Thanks everybody.
What?
I said thanks everybody.
Yeah.
We'll put it to good use.
And we're going to continue to work. Yes, for sure. Definitely. Thank you guys so much. I hope I see you once you're no longer sheltering.
Yes,
thank you so much.
So lovely. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Okay, bye. Bye. I think moving. Okay. That's all right. So They had a little bit of a technical problems out there. But anyway, I'm so glad that Lauren and Seth were able to join us on Wham Now today. They are allies in this fight to the women's Alzheimer's movement. We're both out there doing different things, but collaborating in this fight against Alzheimer's. The women's Alzheimer's movement focusing on women and gender-based research and educating women and their families about how to navigate the path forward if you have a diagnosis of Alzheimer's, but also how to prevent or do your best to stay brain healthy and to stay healthy. So we don't yet have a magic pill to prevent Alzheimer's, but we do know a lot about how to live a healthier brain life than we did 5 years ago, 4 years ago. And so that is the work of WHAM. That is why we are here. That is why we continue to be out there working on your behalf. So thank you so much for joining Wham Now. Next week, we're going to talk to Dan Buettner from the Blue Zones, who has a lot of information about why people live longer, where they live longer, what to eat, what not to eat, how to move, all of that. He's a great friend and has a lot of really interesting research. He also wrote a big best-selling book about, it's like 100 recipes from the Blue Zones. So he's going to join us. Then Lisa Mosconi is going to join us the following week. She just wrote the XX Brain. I wrote the foreword for that, all about women's brain health and women's health. So we're drilling down. We're trying to get you the information you need to know, and we're out there working on your behalf. So thank you so much for these donations. Thanks to Lauren and Seth for joining us, and stay here to learn more about the women's Alzheimer's movement, and just check in with us every day. We have a newsletter. You can sign up for that as well, or check out our website. Once again, thanks so much. Have a great rest of your day. And don't forget to keep your brain healthy. It's connected to your body. You can feed this, you can calm this, you can rest this. It's your greatest asset. See you later. Bye.